Good morning, and welcome to the Dr. Baruch Show here on the Elife Media Network. I am Dr. Baruch, in case you didn't figure that out. And we are having, as always, I'm always excited. I'm always excited when I'm in the creative mode. And I'm in the creative mode today because we're doing some really creative empowerment. We're doing some really creative education. We're doing some really creative ingenuitive kind of stuff here in the studio. So we're going to get it all worked out and fixed and make everything right. But in the meantime, this is the eLife Media, where we have established a vehicle whereby we could control the content. You know, too many times you look at what goes on in the news and you're troubled behind not being able to really get genuine news information. You can do that, but you want to do it a little further back. That's fine. Okay. Engineered some behind the scenes communication taking place. But so too many times we don't get the full story, or we don't get a story that we can relate to, or we don't get a story that that empowers and informs us with the right information, such that we can make right decisions behind that information. And I'm going to give you a little bit of that now, understanding that what happened in Florida is an atrocity. Is an atrocity. There's no question that's an atrocity. But for the news to make the claim that this is the first time in American history that more than 50 people have been massacred, can we just do just a little historical research and realize that unless the claim is that maybe there's some of us that are not human beings, and then maybe they're okay. So if I'm not a human being, if people like me are not human beings, then maybe your claim is accurate, that is the first time that there's a human massacre of this sort has ever taken place. But if I am, and people that look like me with deeply melanated skin are humans, then I think you're wrong. Because, it's like making the claim that no bombs have been dropped on American soil. Well, we got to reflect back on what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we got to reflect on what happened in Philadelphia with the MOVE group there. And we got to reflect on other instances where history has been seemingly, I'm going to use this expression, but don't get it wrong, whitewashed. It has been whitewashed, so we don't see it. We don't hear it. And all of a sudden, there'll be children who don't have parents like me in the home who won't correct them and say, no, this isn't the first time that more than 50 people have been, slaughtered. An atrocity in and of itself, no doubt. But it's also an atrocity that we have slaughtered the truth. And I think that's a big deal. So, again, this is the Dr. Baruch Show. We talk about health and wellness. And I think this is another instance where we have slaughtered the truth. The truth has been slaughtered, and we bought the slaughter as opposed to buying the truth. So we need to recognize that the truth has been hidden from us in the area of health and wellness, because if I hide the truth from you with regard to health information, then I would possibly prevent you from ever achieving wellness. And that's a big deal. That is a big deal. We have to recognize that many of us are sick because we just don't know. We don't know the truth. So today we're going to be talking to a young lady who's going to share with us her story. And quite possibly we might have on a colleague of mine and someone that she's familiar with as well, who is familiar with healing and strengthening the immune system. And I'm going to dive in on that subject just for a minute. We spend so much time destroying our immune system. It's like that's the solution of modern medicine. Modern medicine has decided that the way that I'm going to heal the body is I'm going to kill the immune system. So when I get fever, or let's just use fever. So when I get a fever, as opposed to letting the fever kill the virus that's inside of the body, what do? We take an immune suppressant, which makes the fever go away, which means the virus lives. That's not a solution. But that's the solution of modern medicine. When you get hay fever or when you have any type of, sinus or inflammation in the nasal cavity, respiratory wise, what we'll do is we'll take an immune suppressant, not recognizing that the body lets you know that you're encountering something that you shouldn't be encountering, or that you have an allergy to, or that you have an intolerance for, and you just need to stop encountering that. But we choose rather to continue to encounter that which we have, well, I can't even say that we know is toxic, but we should know is toxic. And that's why you will know, if you continue to listen to our show, that we will talk to you about those things that the body is intolerant of and allergic to. So as opposed to taking an immune suppressant, we would then take an immune support, which would strengthen the immune system, but likewise, we wouldn't work against it by eating something that we shouldn't. And we definitely would not suppress the immune system. Suppressing the immune system would be like if you went to, I'm going to use a really bad example. It's probably not good. I'm trying to think of another one, but I can't just yet. If you went to a prison and you decided, okay, look, you know what? The population here is out of control, and the only reason why we know they're out of control is because prison guards are screaming and hollering and saying it's out of control. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop the prison guards from screaming and hollering. We're going to suppress them. So let's suppress them, lock them up in a cell, and just let everything else go as it should or could or might, whatever. Again, a bad example because I think about how many non-criminals are incarcerated, and probably a whole lot in the United States of America. But if you do that, of course, you're going to have mayhem. It's going to be out of control. But that's what we're doing inside of the body. As opposed to strengthening the defense system inside of the body, we're suppressing the defense system and letting the virins, the bacteria, the microbia all go wild. It's not a solution. But that's the modern medical solution. Because the modern medical solution wants you to know that you need them. So the minute you get an itch, the minute you have a red spot, the minute you have a pain, the minute you have a headache, the minute you have, your stomach is upset, the minute your eyes start watering, the minute you start sneezing, the minute your throat gets sore, the minute anything goes wrong with you, your medical doctor is letting you know your body is not yours. It is mine, and you have insurance, so don't worry about it. Just call us and we'll tell you what to do. And trust me, when we tell you what to do, we're never going to tell you something that we will not benefit from. We're always going to benefit. We're always going to have a drug to sell to you, a procedure to offer to you, or some type of referral to one of my cousins who has who's a urologist or a nephrologist or some ologist that, he's really an economologist because he's making money off of you, and they calling each other, yo, I sent you 15 this week, golf is on you, and that's how they're playing with our health. And if they get it wrong, it doesn't matter, they still get paid. When does a doctor not get paid? If they cut off the wrong toe because you got gangrene in a toe, if they cut off the wrong toe, they get paid for cutting off the wrong toe. They go to play golf that day. They get their check. They're laughing. They're joking on the golf course. I cut off the wrong toe. Bob, I cut off the wrong. Do you believe it? This is crazy. I got to stop drinking. Am I up? Let me hit the ball next. That's what they're doing with our lives. And we're trusting them. We're outliving our medical doctors, yet we trust them with our lives. Is that crazy? Yes, I'm telling you, it's crazy. So, the disinformation that we have been offered and that we find comfort in is really absurd. And another absurd part of this reality is what we need to be getting, or the resolution to our problem, the resolution to what it is that is wrong to us or wrong with us, we have been led to believe, we've been made to believe is absurd. It is absurd to think that the solution to cancer is eating healthy. The solution to overcoming hypertension is eating healthy and maybe adding a couple of supplements that you're not getting in your food anymore because the food is being damaged, because the soil's been damaged, because the chemical companies, Germanic chemical companies, I say that again, Germanic, and in case you don't know what that means they German companies, German chemical companies like Dow and DuPont and Monsanto and Arthur Daniels Midland and Syngenta and Bayer, all of those companies are destroying the soil, because if they can destroy the soil, they can cause you to be dependent upon them for your recovery or your marginal wellness, because you're not really going to be well. They don't ever want you to really be well, because if you're ever well, then you'll realize, well, I don't need you anymore. So their thing is, well, let's get you marginally well, just enough so that you can continue to work, so that you can make money, so you can continue to get us paid, but not well enough so that you get to the point where you realize, I don't need you anymore. So, again, this is the Dr. Baruch Show, and we are excited. You all want to call all your friends, family, loved ones, and everyone else, because we have somebody who's come back to life that's on our program today. Because most of us think, when you think of HIV and you think of AIDS, you think, oh, my God, are you making preparations? Have you got your things in order? Have you gotten all of your finances in order? Have you willed everything to your son or daughter? Have you made sure that all of your paperwork is in order, because you know you're checking out? And if that's all you know, then you will actually follow that path and you'll check out. And I know of a medical doctor, actually he's a dentist. And a dentist got blood on him when he was doing a procedure, and he was afraid, so he went to get checked, and he got checked, and they say, oh, comes back positive, man. Looks like the person that you were treating did in fact suffer from HIV, AIDS, and as a result of that blood getting on you, now you're positive, you're testing positive. This man, I'm going to say it quickly because we got to go to break. This man got all of his paperwork in order. He did everything. He willed everything to his children. He sold houses that he owned. He got rid of everything and totally was prepared to die, losing his hair. He was losing his hair. He did not take the drug. He was losing his hair. He was losing weight. He was miserable. He was dying. And when his lawyer looked over his paperwork as they were doing their final work on closing out his paperwork, his lawyer said, hey, did you notice that the Social Security number on the person who's HIV positive and your Social Security number are different? What? What? Well, what does that mean? That means that person with that Social Security number is HIV positive, and we don't know about you yet, so you might need to get checked. He goes and gets checked, realizes then now that he's not HIV positive, and of course realizes he's not dying, and he's not miserable, and he's not depressed. He's excited. He's got a new lease on life. He's born again, and I don't mean that in a religious sense, but he's born again in the sense that he's got his life back. That's amazing. But this young lady that we're going to be talking to, her story isn't that story. It's a different story, but it's a good story nonetheless. And I want you all to stay tuned for more of the Dr. Baruch Show as we talk to a woman who beat AIDS. We're going to be right back with more great programming here on the Elife Media Network. Stay tuned for how a young lady defeated AIDS right here on the Dr. Baruch Show. What you can do. We are back on the Dr. Baruch Show. And as I promised you, I've got a guest in studio who is going to share her story about her encounter with HIV/AIDS. And without belaboring the issue, without dragging this thing out, we're going to jump right in and introduce to you a young lady who I'm inspired by. Her name is Nydja Wages. Good morning, Nydja. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Baruch. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Okay, speak up just a bit. We're not catching you.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Great, great, great. And thank you for coming on board. And just for our audience, and so that they would know who it is that we have on the line with us, tell us a little bit about yourself before you encountered this interesting health challenge.
I was a social worker here in New York City for 17 years. I worked with substance abuse clients, mental health, mental illness, 17-year career.
Right, right.
I encountered my experience with HIV and AIDS was actually introduced back in the 1980s, which is when my career actually started. Um, and as a counselor,
Let's go back. Let's go back for a minute. You encountered AIDS. You contracted AIDS, HIV/AIDS. How did that happen?
in 2003, I
How
con-
did it happen? Okay, go ahead.
it happened. 2003 is when I recognized that I had it, uh, and I contracted it from a long-term relationship
Okay.
with an individual that was closet homosexual, but I didn't know that at the time. It was a 10-year relationship. And at the time of me finding out, that's when he revealed to me that he was sleeping with men.
Okay. Tell us about that. How do you go to a medical doctor and get diagnosed HIV positive? Is that something where you went in with that intention to just check to see whether you had it, or did you go in and you were just having routine blood work done, and all of a sudden somebody calls you and says you need to come down here right away?
No, actually, I was at my graduation. I was very, very sick. I graduated on my birthday, May 31st, 2003. And I was at my graduation. And usually, when I catch a cold, which I never really caught a cold before, prior to that, I cleared it up because I've always used natural herbs in my life. I passed out at my graduation and I was rushed to the hospital. And it
Right.
was at that time when the doctor came in and told me, Miss Wages, if you did not come in today, you would be dead in 3 months.
Wow. Wow. And
So at the time, let me just tell you, Dr. Baruch, at the time when I found out, my T cells was 290 and my viral load was like 27,000 copies. And we're going to get into the detriment of those two areas in the body. We'll discuss that later. But I really want to get back to the viral load and the T cells because that's what I had to conquer that. And
absolutely.
that took me a 14-year search to
Wait a minute.
find
Now, 14 years. Now, you were diagnosed what year?
2003.
2003. And why didn't you give up?
Well, I didn't give up because my mother, well, you know what? I guess the best way for me to say it is my I was I was raised with a very spiritual foundation, a very solid spiritual foundation, and that there was a I knew there was a resolution out there for immune deficiencies. I just had to find it. And I also knew in my spirit that that resolution was not going to come from man-made products.
Yes. Okay. And so you weren't looking necessarily to the modern medical solution for your answer. You knew that possibly you were going to have to go outside the bounds of that.
Oh, absolutely. The day that I found out is the day that I went outside the bounds. I went deeper outside the bounds of man-made medications.
Now, how does that work? Because in the United States of America, we have been conditioned to believe that you have to go to the medical establishment, almost like you don't even own your own body. The modern medical doctor and the pharmaceutical drug dealer own your body. What gave you the unmitigated gall, the audacity to go out and take ownership of your body and say, you know what? There's a solution out here and you all don't have it, so I got to look someplace else. How do you do that? How do you come to that conclusion? And how was your family, when you told them, nah, I'm not doing that, I'm going to do this? Or you go ahead, answer that first.
I think my lifestyle is what made me go outside of the bounds of pharmaceutical medication. My lifestyle has always been based on natural herbs. I've never been in a hospital prior to 2003 for any type of immune illness or any type of flu, or I never been in a hospital for that. Because when I got sick, I always went to a natural herb. I never went to pharmaceuticals. So my lifestyle of living that way my whole life, it was that's the vehicle that I use to go outside of man-made products. And that's what my faith is in natural herbs. I live by it. So when I got sick and I realized that none of my natural herbs were working, in addition to other cultures that I am very fond of, like the Hispanic culture, they have a very, very fluent natural intake of natural herbs. The West Indian culture, there's different cultures that I've stuck very close to, and I've adopted their natural herbal healings as well. But but at the time that I found out, none of those were working. None of those were able to control the viral load, which is the most dangerous part of the virus, I think.
Right, right. That is pretty critical. And did you, get from your medical doctor the same thing that many of us, have heard others are getting, and that is you need to get your affairs together because this is the end.
No, you know what? I got to tell you a funny story, because the day that I ended up in a hospital, I was actually unconscious because I had a fever over 105.
Wow.
And at that rate, you are literally going, when you close your eyes, you are literally going unconscious,
Mm-hmm.
because your fever's so high. When I got to the hospital, I woke up, I opened my eyes, and the doctor came in, and he was a little arrogant. He was a little arrogant. He just seemed to be a little happy telling me of my condition. And I observed that, but I didn't react because he didn't have the power. I had the power, and I knew that. So he said to me in a kind of cocky, arrogant manner, and he was leaning on the door in a manner like, yeah, well, this is what it is, and what are you going to do about it? So he says, yeah, well, if you didn't come in today, you'd be dead in 3 months. As if it was supposed to razzle me, but it didn't. I knew, actually, my response to him was, let's do what we have to do for me right now. Whatever little regimens you have in the back, you go on and get them, and let me go on home and handle my business, because I knew that I was in control of this virus. And I also knew that that virus was going to be scared of me when I got to its butt.
That's what's up. And we're talking to Nydja Wages today, and Nydja Wages is a person who I guess we would say was HIV positive and is now HIV negative. And if I remember correctly, Nydja, when you and I first talked about it, you said that, well, if I were to ever get or become HIV positive again, I would have to have intercourse or whatever it is with somebody who's HIV positive because it no longer exists in my body. Am I right?
Right, correct.
Great, great. And
Correct.
you're here on the Dr. Baruch show, and we are having a great conversation with a young lady who has done something most of us in the viewing audience would think is utterly and totally impossible. Well, you can't lie about evidence because the evidence speaks for itself, and it's right here in front of us. And we've got documents actually Nydja was prepared to send us, medical information. Look, I want you to see I was positive, and now the doctors released me. I no longer need medication.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, that's powerful. And the world needs to know, especially for those of us who are challenged with immune diseases, immune deficiency diseases. And that could be everything from a cold to high blood pressure, heart disease, AIDS,
Diabetes.
herpes, VD, syphilis, gonorrhea, the list goes on. The common cold, it all is, kind of based on the same premise. And we're going to be talking about the things that Nydja did in order to put this disease behind her and not keep it in front of her and debilitate her and her quality of life. This is exciting. Again, we're talking to Nydja Wages, who's in New York City, and she's talking to us about her journey from being HIV positive to HIV negative here on the Dr. Baruch Show. We're going to be right back in just a moment. You all stay tuned. are back with the Dr. Baruch Show here on the Elife Media Network. And we're having a very direct conversation about HIV and AIDS. We're having a direct conversation not about funeral preparation, not about getting your paperwork together, not about getting your finances in order, not about completing your bucket list while you're still 30, because you know you're not going to be here at 31. We're talking about overcoming, we're talking about defeating, we're talking about defying the odds, we're talking about doing something that modern medicine would shun, and that is taking charge of your own health and realizing that the body does desire to be healthy. And if you give the body what it needs and stop giving the body what it doesn't want, and I need to say that again, stop giving the body what it doesn't want. I don't care how good it tastes. Stop giving the body what it doesn't want. What food tastes so good that it's worth risking your life over? Give me one. What food would you, hey look, I would die for some fried chicken. And you know, there's a whole lot of people that'll say that out their mouth. Well, you need to die. Sorry. I mean, that's just what you desire, right? You know, you need to just go ahead and check out. If you would die for a piece of fried chicken, then, you know, something's not right. And I think we have to look at two things. There are two pieces that I put in my lectures, and I say, we have an obsessive compulsive addiction to that which produces negative outcomes. We have been given this obsessive, because you're not born with an obsessive compulsive addiction to just destroy yourself. So we've been conditioned to now have an obsessive compulsive addiction to destroy our own health. And on top of that, the strangest thing is the solution to our problems across the board, every single one of our solutions, whether it be for our health or it be for our relationships or it be for our economy or it be for whatever problem it is that we have in our life, the solution has been characterized, or it has been framed as repulsive. It is repulsive to think that I got diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, and I'm fat as hell, and you're telling me I got to eat healthy? Hell no. I'm not going to do it. I'd rather die. It's repulsive. And to think that who would want to violate the first law of nature? Nature's first law is self-preservation. So today we're talking with someone who has preserved self. And I look forward to speaking to this young lady when we're 150, 250, maybe even 350. We'll bring her back on the show and we'll just laugh at how we figured out the code. Because most people don't figure out the code. They believe that, well, you know, if I get to 50, I'm good. You know, if I could just get 50, I will have beat my mama, or I'll beat my daddy because they didn't make 50. So if I get to 50, because I don't want to be 60 and all broke down and on medication, and my girlfriend or whomever, they got to wheel me around in a wheelchair. I don't want that. I don't want to be in hospice once I'm 60 years of age. Well, if you only knew that you had the power to control that, maybe you would not do those things that are compulsive addictive behaviors that lead to negative results. We're talking to Nydja Wages today about her journey from HIV positive to HIV non-existent. And she is sharing with us what it was like for her. And we're going to jump back into that conversation. Nydja, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Great. And you were talking about, you know, aspects of this journey. I would suspect that over the course of the time when you were after getting diagnosed, I would expect that you had ups and downs. You know, some people even consider, you know, I just want to take myself out because I don't want to go through this. Tell us about your the mental process, the mental state, your mental challenges, your mental triumphs through this process.
I mean, honestly, they weren't that great for me. The mental challenges really weren't that great because I am so in tune with myself and my star player that I knew that I had to take time away from the people that I know and the people in my life to go into some type of like spiritual sabbatical to uh, resolve my issue. I needed to go into research, and I needed just me and my spirituality. So the challenges more so were with people. They came from people. The virus itself did not intimidate me. It did not scare me, and it did not frazzle me. Um, People brought more negativity to the situation than actually the virus. The virus was very easy to control. Um, like I said, back in the 80s, I contracted in 2003, but I was working with people when it first hit the scene. People were dying on my caseload. People were withering away. They were turning into bones, literally. And in the 80s, I had to go beyond my scope of education, my degrees, what regulated the jobs for people. I had to go beyond that because I had to save these people's lives. So my research started with back in the 80s, and I needed to understand this virus. I needed to understand what the effects it had on the cellular system in the body and the muscle system in the body. And once I figured that out, I was able to help my clients get back life in their body, in their face, because with the virus, nobody knew anything about it in the 80s, and people started wasting. They had something called the wasting syndrome. The medication was so harsh on the stomach that you didn't want to eat anything because you were always sick taking the medication. The medication made you so sick you didn't want to eat, so your body starts wasting, and you start defecating everything out of your body. There's no nutrients in the body. Back in the 80s, I figured out, because I was always in the gym, I was always an athlete my whole life. So I figured out that weight training, not going to the gym and getting on a treadmill to lose weight, you had to go in the gym and you had to do resistance weight training to build the muscle. And when you're building muscle, that gives your body an appetite for real food, something starchy, something heavy that can stick to your ribs. And I started weight training my clients in addition to getting them on a real healthy regimen, which was juicing. I got my clients to start juicing, juicing vegetables. We didn't so much do the juicing fruits. We did juicing vegetables because the vitamins were very high. Vitamins are very, very high in vegetable juicing. And that was able to get the clients to be able to take the medication, not feel sick, and still function in their lives. Um, Now, my particular journey, what I found was humic acid. I found humic fulvic acid,
Let me
and
let me
that
let me ask a question while you're going through that. We're talking to Nydja Wages, again, a young lady who has defeated AIDS in her body. She has strengthened her immune system, and she's talking about her journey, how she got to the point where she had defeated this. Tell me, how many schools of biology, how many schools of anatomy, how many schools of what is it, epidemiology, how many schools of learning did you go to so that you could become an expert in what it is that you know about defeating AIDS in your body?
well, there was no conventional school that I went to, no building.
Come on now, you had to go to Harvard or somewhere so that
No,
you could
no,
know. No
no,
Harvard?
no, no.
What?
I
Nothing.
I went I went to the most powerful skill that I have, and that was my brain and my ability to understand that certain things didn't link right, and there was an imbalance in the body.
No, but you got to be careful because you're making people now think that we could actually do this ourselves. And if we all thought that we could do this ourselves, then we would end up not needing medical doctors anymore. And that just can't be right. Otherwise, why would they have these hospitals with all these new wings that they're building? Obviously, there's something wrong with doing this on your own. So you did this without a medical degree. You don't have any medical background. You didn't go
No.
to take a biology crash course, that
No.
weekend so that you could understand. You started doing your own research and also had been working with people who were HIV positive and AIDS. And you started seeing that, well, wait a minute. I think you hit on a very key note, and that is nutrition. Yes, you will waste away without nutrition. And we find people that take chemotherapy, they don't die from cancer. They die from many times lack of nutrition and the chemical chemotherapy has in it. And likewise, I'm sure with the chemicals that you were taking. Did you do any of the pharmaceutical solutions? Did you use any of those?
Well, early on in my contracting the virus, I did. I say the first 3 months I did do the pharmaceutical medication because I had to get my T cells back up. I didn't have anything outside of that to assist me in that moment because at the time my T cells was 290. In the average person, your T cells are over millions. So
Right.
for my T cells to be that low, I had to take that pharmaceutical medication so that it can get me back to stability so that I could move forward from there. I needed my strength back. I had lost all my strength at that point.
And you were how old at this point?
I was 33 years old
33.
in
Diagnosed
2003.
33 and diagnosed HIV positive. Okay, so you're telling us you were on the journey. You were telling us some of the things that you did. You mentioned humic and fulvic acid. Tell us the whole regimen. Like, when did you start being proactive about, being infected and now having contracted HIV and AIDS? And we know that there are differences. So we know that one comes before the other. Did you actually have full-blown AIDS?
Never,
No.
no.
Okay. Okay.
It never got to that point.
Does that matter in your research?
In my research, it doesn't because what I with fulvic and humic acid, um, it minimizes even full blown AIDS.
and I know
Oh,
that there are people in the audience who are questioning and want to know, well, wait a minute, I've never heard of that before, and where do I get that, and so on. Well, for those of you who are in the audience and would be interested in getting the product, we're going to talk to you about that too, so that you can give us a call and we can get those products for you. You all want to share this episode of the Dr. Baruch Show out on with your friends and family and loved ones, especially those who are challenged, with health challenging conditions. And I want to say this, that I was having a conversation, as it was on the radio, or maybe I was speaking in front of a room, but a woman came up to me and said, she said, I'd like to have a private conversation with you. I don't think anybody else would want to hear what I have to say. So I knew, okay, well, either you love me or you don't. So something's about to happen. So she pulls me aside and she grills me and reads me and rakes me over the coals. How could you dare tell these people that they have reason to hope that they are going to live? Why would you put that on them? They're already suffering as it is. Why would you make them think that they could defeat AIDS? No one has ever defeated. There's no way that they could defeat it. And I said, okay, I understood it. I understood her position. I understood that she had been sufficiently conditioned by the system and would think that way. And like you said, probably one of the biggest challenges that, Nydja was sharing with us, one of the biggest challenges that you had was the
yeah.
people's conditioning, where they think things are and how they think things should be. So now let's go through this. You were diagnosed, so you were on the chemicals, which was, what is it, AZT back then?
In 2003, it was a little bit more advanced. It wasn't as harsh as the medications by 2003 were not as harsh as EZT because EZT was actually killing people.
Yes.
But the medications that are more advanced up until 2003 and beyond that is still when you are really in tune with your body, like I am, I'm very, very in tune with my body. So when I started taking the medication, I realized that I was feeling sick. The medicate when I didn't take it, I said, okay, I'll take medication for 1 week and see if it's the medication or if it is the virus. The medication for that whole week, I felt sick. I couldn't eat anything. I was just horribly just I was just overwhelmed. The
Sure.
next week I stopped taking it. For the whole week I was strong. I felt I can get around, and I had an appetite. So I realized that that medication was actually accelerating. It it was not it was not helping me. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
It made me sick.
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling nauseous all day, every day. I was just in horrible straits when I took it. So I stopped. After 3 months, once my T cells got up, I stopped and I went into a natural herbal intake. And when I'm saying natural herbs, I'm talking about leaf herbs. What I what actually what actually defeated my immune system is not the leaf herb. It is the soil under the ground that makes the leaf herb grow.
Mm.
That's what resolved that's what defeated my immune deficiency. The soil that makes the trees and the fruit grow.
Now, wait a
Um,
minute. It's not the food that you were eating. So, are you telling us you were eating dirt?
Humic and fulvic acid is is soil that makes fruit. It makes chaga trees grow strong. And I don't know if the people out there are familiar with the chaga mushroom that comes
Mm-hmm.
out of the bark of a tree. And that is the most powerful antibiotic. Listen to me, people. That is one of the most powerful antibiotics in the world.
Mm.
You can go and pull chaga out of a tree and actually make a tea with that. You do not need to clean it. You do not need to sterilize it. It is an antibiotic. So, what makes chaga trees grow strong? And for chaga, the mushroom, to have so much powerful antibiotic in it, the soil under the ground that makes that tree grow with that powerful antioxidant in it is humic and fulvic acid.
Mm.
When you see a deer out in the woods, now there's a couple of people listening that really live in the woods and they really hunt and they really do this as a hobby. So if you're listening, observe this, what I am telling you today. When you see a deer hover over the grass, that deer is trying to find that humic fulvic acid grass. When he stops and he starts eating from that grass, under that grass that he was just eating is humic and fulvic acid.
Hmm. That's it's again, it's something that again our audience is probably hearing for the first time. Many of you are hearing for the first time. Fulvic and humic acid. Dirt.
Yes.
The dirt has become sick. The soil has been sickened, in that the nutrients that are supposed to be found in the soil are not there. And
Well,
it's
you know,
not by mistake, it's by
no, no,
design.
it's you're absolutely right, Dr. Baruch.
We've got
It
a.
is not by mistake. It is by design.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There was a time when humic acid was in the water. When I was a little girl, it was a time when humic acid was in the water,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a time when humic acid was a part of the growing process for plants and vegetables. Um, and that's a mineral that the body actually needs because it's a mineral for the cells in the body.
Mm-hmm.
The humic acid that I had got a hold of came out of Honduras. I was working with a young man named Zakor, and he works with humic acid out of the mines in Honduras. And he immediately sent me a pound of humic acid, but he put me on a different regimen that was directly related to my healing process. Um, the humic that he sent me was of the highest realm of humic acid right out of the mine. And as I started taking it, I went to my doctor. Prior to me taking the humic acid, my T cells would only go as high as 500. I started taking it, and 2 weeks later, I had a doctor's appointment, and I went to see my doctor. He took my blood, and my T cells came back at 1900. They went from 500 to 1900 in a matter of 2 weeks of me taking the humic acid. My
Mm.
viral load went down to zero. That's it. The viral load will never come up again, ever. because I don't have any copies in my body, any copies of the virus in my body. And that's what the viral load is. It is copies of the virus mutating in your body. So when somebody says they have 27,000 copies of their viral load is at 27,000, that is 27,000 copies of the virus in their body. So the viral load was very is actually to me the most dangerous part of the virus, because the viral load is what makes the fever go up, and it's the viral load is what allows ammonia to take over your body, and so when I found what humic acid did for me and my doctor, we had a discussion, and after a month of me taking it, he stated that I never have to take the pharmaceutical medications again. He just said, so now when I see him every 6 months, he's what is documented in my chart is not how is the medication doing, not do you need a prescription. We don't discuss that anymore. All he says is you're still on humic acid. Yes. And that's it. That closes my chart. So to have it documented in my chart that that is the only thing I'm on, please understand humic acid is not a pharmaceutical. Humic acid is a organic soil. So that's one of the things with humic acid that changed my life.
Right, right. And we're talking to Nydja Wages, and she is one who has gone from HIV positive to now HIV non-existent, and I think it's interesting to hear that that is even something that someone conceives in their mind. How do you conceive in your mind as you're watching the fields of people around you that are laying in waste, that are still alive, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of people that have died, and you would think that you can defeat this illness? And Nydja, I would have to wonder that, you know, there are other people who have achieved this as well, and who have followed behind the regimen that you have created, or the regimen that you followed.
Yeah.
And tell us about that. Are there people that are getting on this? Are there people that are getting wise to this? Is this information being made to the general public?
Well, the information is being made through the general public, through people like you, other different media sources that are aware and knowledgeable of these healing properties that we are living around. We are actually living around these healing properties. The information is getting to the people through me. The information is getting through the people through Zakor, people who are really who know the answer to longevity and health, and being able to just sustain yourself without having to go and you know, be, your life is shortened when you're dealing with doctors and medications. The medications that are given to us, and let me just keep it on me because I really don't want to make this a general thing. When doctors are giving me medications, I know that that medication is working against my body internally. It is not working to make my body better. It is working against my body, and it creates, one medication can create another problem in your body, that you'll need another medication for that new problem in addition to the first medication you was taking. So it is all by design, because it's all about money. And when you are working in the field of medicine, there's millions of dollars out there for us to keep people sick.
Right.
And I don't want your money. I don't want the world's money. I don't want your money in order for me to get you better. I want you to at least take time and research what we are talking about here today, which is fulvic and humic acid, and a couple of other natural soils like zeolite and diatomaceous earth. I mean, you guys need to know this, and I want you to earn the right to live a better, longer life.
That's it.
And you don't have to buy that. When I say earn it, it's just a matter of research and tapping into the right information and starting to get your own body back on track. When I found out what the humic acid was doing, Zakor sent me a pound. He sent me a whole pound. When I realized what it did for me, I had to become my own scientist. I was my own guinea pig for everything that I've ever taken. Um, but natural herbs and soils I've always known could never hurt me. When I realized what it did for me, Dr. Baruch, I immediately ran out of my house. Literally, I was on the subway with a pair of jeans on from 1980s that had graffiti all over them. I mean, I was looking crazy, but I immediately ran over to a senior citizen that's been a part of my life my whole life. She's one of my heroes. She's 72 now. She has something called vertigo. And vertigo is basically where the electrons are not snapping in the brain. So when you stand up, you automatically fall down. You don't have any control over your body, you collapse. And she was in this position for about, wow, I say a couple of years. By the time I got to her, she was taking 17 medications and she could barely sit up. She had pillows holding her up so she can talk to me. I made her alkaline water, humic acid, and I put her on a teaspoon of humic acid every day with alkaline water. In 2 weeks, she called me, and I heard the vacuum cleaner running in the background, and I thought it was her husband running the vacuum cleaner. And she said, Nydja, guess what? Guess where I am? Guess where I'm at? And immediately I said, Mommy, I hope you're not in the hospital, because if you are, I'm going straight to hell because I gave you some stuff, you know? So she said, No, I'm downstairs. I'm vacuuming. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I said, You're vacuuming, Mommy? You feel that strong? She said, Yes, I feel strong. Now, this woman's granddaughter is a celebrity. So I'm not going to say her name and I'm not going to say the woman's name. But her granddaughter is a big celebrity. And her granddaughter has been trying to get her to come on a trip, but she's been too sick. She couldn't stand up. So after a month of her on the humic acid, her and her husband went away for a all-paid trip to Hawaii that her granddaughter set up for them to come and watch her perform. And I was the person that sat in her house and babysitted the foster kids that she has while she went away for 3 weeks.
That's a great story, and it speaks to the great benefit
Oh,
that you have engaged, and that so many of them are out here, and we don't tap into them. A lot of times we don't understand that the soil, the health of the soil, kind of dictates the health of the plant. And the health of the soil here that we've been consuming in the United States of America is sick. And that's why
yes.
the humans are sick. We're made from the dust of the earth, right? Well, if the dust is sick, if it's not complete, if it's malnourished, if it's not filled or full of all of the nutrients, all of the minerals and vitamins, and all of the support that it needs, then it's going to create a deficient plant. And if you eat it, you're going to be a deficient person.
Yes.
Again, we're talking to Nydja Wages about her journey from HIV positive to HIV non-existent. And for those of you who wonder, well, what does that do for somebody with full-blown AIDS? It's the same process.
Same
Understanding how
process.
you recover the body and how you build the body back up is the same process. Whether you have a cold, whether you have a sore throat, whether you have HIV, whether you have full-blown AIDS, whether you are on your dying bed, you don't know what you got, whether you got fibromyalgia, whether you got, like she was sharing with us, vertigo. It's about releasing the immune system and empowering the immune system to help you. Stop, some simple things that we do, and I'll just drop this in before we jump to a break. Some simple things that we do that are consistently defeating our immune system is washing our hands with those little bottles of chemicals that supposedly removes bacteria. Well, you're also removing your immune system. In addition to that, you're suppressing your immune system with those chemicals, and as a result of suppressing, and when you suppress the immune system, that's not a local event. When you suppress the immune system, you suppress the immune system. So you washing your hands with these chemicals now open your body to all kinds of bacteria and viral, enemies now having access to you because your defenses are down. We're here on the Dr. Baruch Show here on the Elife Media Network. We're going to be back in just a minute with more of our interview with Nydja Wages about her journey from HIV positive to HIV non-existent. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Elife Media, the ultimate media outlet, broadcasting live radio and TV worldwide, powered by live music for you.
All about me and all the changes I've gone through internally. Trying to find my thing, trying to make a living, while my heart longed to sing. I was so tired of being forced into a life that another leads. I need to be free to make choices that honor my individuality. At the heart of every moment, embedded in my soul, singing, I ain't gonna keep a roof over my head, I'm told. Folks got their opinions about my needs, some I wish they keep. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Can you understand my pain? Try to fit a 7, knowing I'm wearing 8. Trying to be someone else causes pain in itself, wearing down the spirit that's left. I had to ease the buzzing in my ears and get clear about my life and what I want it to be. It took a while to break free of naysayers and negativity. I share my story of an inner struggle and the journey that one goes through, deciding to live my life. Let the real me come through. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Makes me wanna raise my hand. Raise your hand and
stop with my friends. Though the school days were fun, running and playing in the sun, we thought it would never end. 7 o'clock Wednesday evening, Daddy just got home from work. Holding hands we say grace. Boy, you better clean your plate, or you won't watch no TV. The memories flash through my mind like a picture in a frame. Even though I'm on my own, I'll never be alone. Those memories will take me home again. So glad to be back home again. Oh, sometimes I need to be home again. I know I can go home again, because it's always here in my heart. Saturday morning cartoon features, bacon and eggs and hot cakes, Felix the Cannon, Scooby-Doo, Super Friends and Spidey too, the heroes of the day. But Sunday morning no one's sleeping, everybody goes to church. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. And I'm so glad it's true. I'm so glad to be back home again. Sometimes I need to be home again. I know I can go home again, because it's always here in my heart. So glad to be back home again. Sometimes I need to be home again. I know I can go home again, because it's always right here in my heart. Play, JD.
All right, we're back on board with the Dr. Baruch Show here on Elife Media. Elife Media, your source for video and audio that empowers you and that will wake you up. And today we are waking you up, and hopefully you all are sharing this with your friends and family who are asleep. And I don't mean asleep in the bed, I mean asleep in the head. That we need to wake up so that we can realize that we do have power that has been taken away from us. We do have information that is there that we can know, if only we knew that it was there for us to know. And I've shared with you all before the fact that there are three bodies of information. There's that which you know, there's that which you know you don't know, and there's that which you don't know you don't know. And the biggest body of information is that which you don't know that you don't know. So you don't even know that you don't know it. And we need to wake up, because there's a lot that we don't know that we don't know. And this is one of the places where we can get it, here on the Elife Media Network, on my show, the Dr. Baruch Show, every Tuesday at 11 a.m. And for those of you who would be so inclined to call in, want to ask a question of myself or Nydja, please feel free to do so at 240-455-5934. 240-455-5934. Give us a call, join in on our conversation if you've got questions, or if you have a testimony or a success story of your own. We would love to hear from you. We've got Nydja Wages on the in our studio today, and she's talking to us about her journey from HIV positive to HIV negative. And I've got a couple of questions, Nydja, that I want to get answered, because I know that there are people out there that want to know. One of them is, the modern medical establishment is extremely clever. They're not stupid. They're extremely clever. So one of the things that they do is, in order for them to test you for, let's just say, herpes, they don't test you for the virus. They test you for the antigen. They test you for the evidence of the antibody, which means that you have been exposed. That doesn't mean that you have it. That just means that you've been exposed. And if you've been exposed, that doesn't qualify you for having the virus. And likewise, I would suspect, I might not be right, but I would suspect that with HIV and AIDS, there's a test that the modern medical establishment has in place that tests you for exposure. It does not test you for the activity or the presence of the virus in the body at present. Again, I'm asking this question of Nydja Wages, one who was tested positive and now tests negative. Doesn't exist. The virus is gone. It's not present in her body anymore. Nydja, tell me about that test. What are they testing for when they test you?
Well, you're correct, Dr. Baruch. They are testing for the antigens. Now, one thing about HIV, the antigens that do come out positive, is that I found out in 2003. That means that the antigen, when I first contracted it, that means that it did lay dormant in my body for up to 12 years. And this is true. It did lay dormant for up to 12 years. However, it started to slowly accelerate to the point, once my T cells dropped below an average of functionality, that's when the virus shows itself. And that's when I was able to see in 2003, because I had no idea that I was even infected.
Let's go back on that for a minute. So you're saying that you were infected 12 years prior to?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, that's what's up. So you were infected, and for 12 years you carried the HIV. You were HIV positive, but just had never been tested.
Right. I
Okay.
had no idea that I had been infected. I was with the person that I was with was for 10 years and more.
Okay.
So I had no idea. But when the immune system took an immediate drop, that's when the virus will let you know that it is there. You could get tested, but like I said, the only thing that comes back on the test is the antigens. That's it. Until the virus actually starts to mutate in your body, then when they take the test, it's going to come back positive.
Okay.
Because the virus mutates. It mutates. When you don't know that you have it, and you're sleeping with people unprotected, you are reinfecting yourself as well as infecting that person. So every time a person with HIV sleeps with someone, even if that person should have it and not know, then I take on a brand new version of the virus. And that goes back to that viral load. When your viral load is something something thousand, that's because you have taken on new strains of the virus from other people that don't know they have it. You follow what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
Um, and just it's people who are HIV positive, let me just say this. They are not a threat to people who are not HIV positive. The people who are not HIV positive are actually more of a threat to people who are HIV positive, because if they cough, our immune system is already depleted. We are going to get sick. If we cough, you're not going to catch HIV. If you touch my saliva, you're not going to catch HIV. I mean, all of these crazy theories out there about HIV, it's wicked. But I got to say this. Whenever you're having an intelligent conversation, never use third person as your factual base. Do your own research so that you can have an adequate, intelligent conversation with someone, because you're giving them information. Don't give the wrong information. Don't make yourself look bad. Give the right information so that you're giving somebody the correct information.
So you were diagnosed in 2003. In
Yes.
2003, you were diagnosed, and we see that there's a journey to getting yourself to a point where you're negative, where you're no longer testing positive. So having gotten the diagnosis in 2003, how many decades did it take for you to finally achieve HIV negative? How many decades, how many years did it take for you to finally put this disease behind you?
It took me 14 years.
14
14
years.
years to find what I was looking for.
So when you were first infected and you started on the humic acid along with other nutritional support, you started on a 14-year journey. So in 2003 you were diagnosed. And when did you test negative?
2014.
2014. And during that time, you were on the regimen of humic acid, fulvic acid, diatomaceous earth, and what was the other? Zeolite, correct?
And shaga mushroom.
And the shaga mushroom. And that's every single day.
That was every single day. Now
Okay.
the shaga, I gotta tell you, I made a tea with that, and I drink tea. I'm a tea drinker even at 90 degrees weather. And the diatomaceous earth was to remove the parasites. See, once let me just mention this real quick about the humic acid and fulvic acid. Humic and fulvic acid is a cellular mineral. This is for the cells in the body. It's very important that the cells in your body are open to receive the oxygen that it needs in the food. The cells in your body must be able to break the food down appropriately and take in those vitamins that the body needs. Now, what humic acid and fulvic acid focuses on, this is a mineral that focuses on viruses in the body. So when you take humic acid, it goes directly to the virus. You can have cancer, which is a virus. Asthma is a virus. Herpes is a virus. Vertigo is a virus. You can have these, and once you take humic acid, it goes directly into the virus. It goes into the cell of the virus, the main cell of that virus, not the third party cell, the main one, the one with the root. And it goes in and it kills the virus in the cell, and then it starts to reproduce brand new cells from there. So the energy that you get from taking humic acid is a natural energy that you're going to get because your cells are being reproduced. And when white cells are being reproduced, we feel better. We feel stronger because our white blood cells is what fights off infection. So that's the joy of humic acid. It goes into the cells. It's not concerned with any other parts of the body
Mm-hmm.
except for the viruses.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Except for the viruses.
That's it.
And that's what happened to me. When I gotta tell you, the okay, 2003 I was infected. I searched. 2014 I found it. In 2 weeks of taking the humic acid, of 14 years of searching, in 2 weeks, the humic acid started to minimize and resolve and defeat the virus in my body. It started wiping it out.
And you could tell the difference.
The difference that I could tell was immediate, because I knew that with more white blood cells my energy was going to go up, and I knew that I was going to start feeling stronger. And that's exactly what happened. My energy, because of the white blood cells being reproduced, my energy went skyrocket. And I can feel it in my body. In addition to what humic acid did, it took the metals out of my body. It took the metals out of the body, and it created an alkaline environment, a high pH environment in my body, which is very important to keep all germs and infections out of the body. Your body has to be in a high pH level.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what we know. That is great. That is great. And your appetite. So you recovered. I would suspect that you, after taking the chemicals, and you only did the chemicals for a number of months, that you probably lost your appetite and then started recovering your appetite at that point. What were you doing for those, I guess, 13 and some odd years prior to the humic acid?
I was actually using natural herbs to maintain my T cells. I couldn't control the viral load prior to humic acid. Humic acid actually answered the viral load. Once I found it, it answered everything. It answered the T cells and the viral load. It answered everything that I needed it to do. Prior to that, I was using natural herbs. I did have a good appetite because I've always weight trained. I stayed in the gym my whole life. So the natural herbs were able to keep my T cells going up. But I couldn't control the viral load. I didn't have no natural herbs to keep that viral load down and make it go to zero. The natural herbs gave me an appetite that was sufficient for me to maintain, and but it wasn't the answer for me, and I didn't stop there. I had to keep going. I adopted a lifestyle of juicing. In addition to juicing, I adopted another lifestyle of, which is probably going to shock a lot of your audience, but it doesn't matter to me if it shocks you guys, because it has changed my life. And this particular regimen is urine therapy. I actually drink my own urine. I wash my hair with my urine. I wash my face with my urine. And my urine actually, it keeps my vitamin intake high, because what is in my urine is vitamins and minerals that I need. So I don't waste my urine. I don't throw it in the toilet. I utilize it for my internal health.
And
So
and I think there are a lot of people who don't understand that. You're right. You're gonna scare a lot of people. However, it doesn't. Again, as I said earlier, that the resolution for us has been put in a space where it's absurd. It's ridiculous. Oh my God, I can't imagine doing something like that. But this was a part of healing regimen for many cultures of people.
Yes.
That urine therapy is not new. That's not some.
It's ancient.
Yeah, it's not some out of the blue strange methodology for bringing about health and balance inside of the body. And I think the challenge that I'm listening to is why is it that more people aren't jumping on board and choosing this strategy that seemingly has worked for you? Why is it that more people have not jumped on board and started doing what it is that you're doing?
Well, I gotta just tell you that I love the country that I live in. and I take nothing from it, but I do want to say that it has magnificently dumbed down America. And with America being dumbed down, it's easy to brainwash you with fear, and fear is a good brainwashing tool. If I create an environment on television and an environment around you, and I'm constantly putting the media is constantly putting out, oh, there's a new germ and you can die from that, and there's a new germ and you could die from this, and we don't know the answer, and you need to go to the doctor and get a shot. Wait a minute. The fear is what makes people not believe in the natural herbs anymore. But if you was born with that natural herb intake from your parents, there is nothing that anybody in the world can tell you about natural herbs. You're going to live on that, and that's what I do. I live by it.
Yes, indeed. And I just thought about, as you were talking, I was thinking about the response that many of us in the audience are going to have about urine therapy. And I think some of us don't know, but many of your hormone therapies, young ladies, is horse urine, has horse urine in it. And many of the vaccines that we're consuming, they have monkey urine and other urine in them. And I'm not saying that to spook you out, but just make you know that you're a little closer to urine than you thought you were.
Absolutely.
So before you go getting spooked out and turn us off and say, that's crazy.
But if
Maybe
you do
you're-
your research, if you do your research, you will find exactly what you just said, Dr. Baruch. That is very true. Very true.
Yes, yes.
And in addition to that, the reason why I'm a juicer today is because genetically modified food modifies your genetics. So if you're eating food that is genetically modified and you get sick and you run and you get the antibiotics from the doctor and the antibiotic is not working, but you do not take antibiotics, you haven't taken antibiotics in about a year or two, and you finally go and get it, it's not going to work. And the reason why it's not going to work is because the food you are eating is modifying your genetics. It is wiping your genetics out. Genetically modified food wipes your genetics out.
Right.
Your
right.
natural genetics. So I stay away from genetically modified foods. And that's everything in the supermarket.
That's it. Listen, I know that it's been a lot of information that you've shared, and I know that there's some accomplishments that you have made that you are pretty proud of, and I want to make sure that our audience knows that you are getting recognition. You are being given a position. You have been given a position, and you've been recognized by the state of New York, and I think that's significant and something that I'd like for you to share with us. How did this come about? What does it mean? And what position of authority or what kind of advantage do you now give this natural healing modality as a result of you being appointed?
I was appointed through the mayor's office. I received an appointment through the mayor's office on June 2nd, 2016, for a seat on the advisory board of HASA. And HASA is the organization that oversees everyone in New York State with HIV and AIDS. Now, I'm very honored to have this position simply because my lifelong career has been working with people with HIV and AIDS. I was out there on the battlefield with them, and I pulled up my sleeves to really get down and dirty to help people get this right and to help people be healthier. The benefits of me being on this board is, to tell you the truth, Dr. Baruch, I wasn't really ready to talk on the radio, and I didn't know why. It's been a while. And then when I got the appointment, something in my spirit told me that it was time. It was time for me to talk to the world about my life with HIV and how I defeated the immune deficiency with life soils. The advantage of the position, it allows me to help people with HIV and AIDS minimize the deficiency so that they can live longer, so that they can live vibrantly. I care about people probably more than the average person out here, because I would go above and beyond to get the information to them, and above and beyond to get the source of help to them the best way that I can. And I believe that everything that is happening with the appointment through the mayor's office and working with Zakor Ben Israel on the humic acid, fulvic acid movement, I think that this is all spiritually divine. I don't believe that I really have much control over it. I believe that divine intervention is setting things into place for forward mobility to get people healthier today. And I'm grateful to be a part of this healthy movement.
Yes, yes, indeed. And we're grateful that you were disciplined and that you believed enough in what it is that you were embarking upon. I can't imagine you had any plans on going on this journey prior to all of this taking place. So, and we're very thankful that not that you contracted, but that you chose the journey, the path that you chose. And I think the question that many people want to know answers to is, okay, so now that you are HIV, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it identified as HIV negative?
Yes.
Is that the, okay, so now that you are HIV negative, does that mean that you can have intercourse without fear of transferring a virus to someone else?
That's a good question. I believe that absolutely it does mean that. However, in my life, I've always been a teacher. So I would, even though I am negative, I wouldn't sleep with anyone without protection. And that's not because I think that I am positive. No, it's because I still have an obligation, because on paper I am considered HIV positive. And I have an obligation to people, the world, to be responsible for interactions that go beyond the living room. So no, I would not sleep with anyone unprotected. Actually, I haven't been in a relationship for 17 years. So, because again, I'm a teacher. I'm not in the world to be more so, I'm not sexually in the world.
Sure,
I'm
sure.
spiritually in the world.
And
I'm
and
here.
it makes you reconsider the world that you're in, even when you
Absolutely.
encounter such a reality. We've been talking to Nydja Wages today, and she has shared with us a wealth of information about her journey from HIV negative to HIV positive. And there's so many other questions that I could ask Nydja, as she has been so kind as to open up her world to us and make us know that in fact you can be successful at becoming or at defeating AIDS, at defeating HIV and AIDS, and defeating any illness inside of the body. So it is has been a pleasure to have you on today, Nydja. I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of close out and say any closing remarks that you'd like to before we jump off the air with, well, not jump off the air, but before we close out this segment of the Dr. Baruch Show. Is there anything you'd like to leave with us?
I just like to give people a way to contact me in case they want to purchase the humic acid or even ask questions. You can contact me at defeatingitall@gmail.com.
That's right.
Defeatingitall@gmail.com.
Great, great.
And Dr. Baruch, I want to thank you so much for having me on your show. I hope that we can do this again.
Great.
There's so much information that I have to give to people. There's so many different soils that I have yet mentioned. And I just want to put it out there that if you can't get to the humic acid, because I know chaga mushroom is sold in the health food stores. If you can get to some chaga mushroom, you can start your own healing process. It's a lot of healing in chaga mushroom. It's a great deal of healing in diamantis earth, zeolite, fulvic acid, humic acid. These are healing properties in these minerals. And I love to hear from anyone. I love your questions. and enthusiasm to get better.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, we are definitely going to have you back on, and we've been doing research on this. I can say I've probably known Zakor since Zakor was a teenager, and he's always been an avid pursuer of the information that is rare. You know, he's
Yes.
always looking to find that which other people just don't know, and
Yes.
that will be so very helpful. So we're thankful for the work that Zakor is doing. And
Absolutely.
we're going to have Zakor on one day so he can talk about the great benefits that he's seen people achieve with some of the basic fundamental things that we just have forgotten about. And all the other creatures in creation know about it because they're not being miseducated. And we're talking about dirt and how
Yes.
important dirt is. How basic is that? You
Isn't
know?
that magnificent?
Yep. It's in the dirt, people.
Yes.
Eat the dirt. But
Yes.
be careful. So again, I want to thank you for coming on board with us today, and we thank you for sharing your story. And hopefully, there are those in the viewing and listening audience who have gotten a wealth of information that will turn your life around. And hopefully, we've got a bunch of people that are going to get this broadcast and tune into this broadcast, so that they can get what it is that you got. Because I think even when you have the information, even when you have the products, if you don't have the right spirit, it won't work for you.
Absolutely.
We have to.
Absolutely.
We have
You're
to.
not even going to believe that it works.
That's right. And if you don't believe it, it ain't gonna work because
Absolutely.
you're not gonna do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Again, I want to thank you for coming on board. I am into my last segment of my show, and we are about to, do something that I'm always excited about. We's about to eat up in here. And I got my lunch coming. Come on in. I got my brother who's bringing me my lunch. I get the chance of eating lunch at Everlasting Life. And we've got Brother Wesley who's bringing in my lunch, and I just want you all to know that, oh man, we need a close-up of this. Goodness gracious. We've got Brother Wesley who has brought in, as a matter of fact, grab that mic right there, that one right there. We're going to ask you, what is it that we have on the menu today at Everlasting Life?
Here we have seared purple cabbage on a bed of spring mix. We have a bed of broccoli topped with pepper medley, red pepper medley, sweet plantains crisscrossed with asparagus, and we have our chicken Florentine
Chicken
topped with
Florentine.
spinach and parsley.
Whoa, man, I can't wait to get down. If you were only here, you would know what I'm about to dig into.
Healthy
But
eating.
yes, indeed. So for those of you who are doing a late lunch today, come on through and check us out here at Everlasting Life. We are jamming for real, and we are about to do lunch as we prepare for the rest of the Dr. Baruch show. Again, we want to thank you all who are in the listening audience and viewing audience for for chiming in and for listening in and for being as concerned as you are about your own health and well-being. But we're going to take about a 5-minute break because I'm going to get a fork and I'm about to go to town on this here living food. We're about to have a good time. So again, this is the Dr. Baruch show here on the Elife Media Network. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back with more great programming. We're back on the Dr. Baruch Show, and just had a really good interview with Nydja Wages, and I think it's important that we all understand our obligation to ourselves first, and I think she really told us how she views her obligation to herself and her life and her quality of life. And I hope that you all see the value in this, and I know I do, and share it with every aunt, uncle, cousin, sister, brother that you can think of, so that this information cannot be hidden. You know, let's